all the maps from MLG as we do get started here. And Dual Sight, definitely one that these players have not played before, as it's not a ladder map, and probably don't get too many custom game practice on this map.
Yeah, so whenever you play on a map like this, I guess you can assume that there's not going to be a lot of cheese because you don't know how cheese works out unless the players are planning and get ready to play on a map like Dual Sight. Perhaps Optical RH did decide to try to practice on this map a little bit more. It is going to be Terran versus Protoss, even though his icon did look like a Protoss unit and further just trying to confuse me. We have Optical spawning as the blue Terran player on the right side of the map. Meanwhile, we have Rantech, the red Protoss, so far halfway to an all kill, spawning over here at the 9 o'clock position on the left side.
Yeah, we've seen him in all the matchups now, as he will have a PVT, and we thought we were going to start out with this, but the starter for Relentless Heroes was not online, and now we are up to Optical. So the first Terran coming from this team, and they have two Terran left. So we'll see whether Optical is able to put a stop to the reign of Rantec. So far, I'm seeing all of his vVv gaming buddies and teammates in the chat rooting him on, and obviously he has been impressive so far, able to take 2 games in his first week of Wednesday Night StarCraft, and we'll see if he's able to take game 3.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see actually a VV gamer who plays straight up Protoss. I think most of the time we see time, and I tried to avoid the pun, and I didn't even realize I would say it. But time plays a much more non straight up variation. So to have Rantec and play Protoss as I guess most players would consider it to be played, or straight up play. It does add a very valuable resource to the VV gaming arsenal, as you never know what you're going to be expecting. You want to have diverse players, not only in terms of race but also in play styles, so that you can come up and choose the right opponent when the time comes.
Yeah, we'll see whether he continues to show the same sort of style. I would say that he is a standard Protoss player, but more defensive macro than we see a lot of Protoss players. Time will come out with these interesting timing attacks and builds, as you mentioned, but it looks like Rantec just choosing to sort of macro up. Even in that last game, made a lot of probes and defending against that 4 gate and just try to get up a superior economy. He was able to win in the end because of that, I think. But we'll see whether he has any sort of aggressive builds, and maybe even in this PVT, any sort of gate timings or timings with a Colossus or two, as both players getting a decent amount of scouting information, but Rantec not going to be able to get into the base of Optical.
Yeah, Rantec pretty much was already blocked. Optical laid down a supply depot and then stopped building it, allowing that SCV to do a little bit of earlier scouting. And whenever a Terran player does this, they normally are going for a fast command center. You can see that there is the command center now being built here to the right of the natural expansion. And Optical, I'm a little curious as to why it's being built so far away from his natural. I can't imagine him trying to actually lift off and land it. Most Terran players build it next to their starting location and then start mining away. And once they are at full saturation on their main base, then try to take it. We'll see whether or not Rantec will pay or make Optical pay if he tries to expand earlier than a Terran player really should.
Yeah, it looks like Rantec getting down his own Nexus, so obviously he is reading the same signals that you are and knowing that that fast expand probably coming from Optical, and he's going to get down a Nexus of his own, chronoing out Warp Gate tech as well, but just working off of 1 gate, the first Stalker on its way out, and he is going to be patrolling, looking for that scouting SCV. At the moment, Rantec also has the tower between the two players as well, and as you mentioned last week, those towers are just gateways colored as red gateways, and the name is unit name Zolnaga Tower 2. So the IZ Cup guys are on this test bug. Some pretty interesting doodads and features here.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's one of my favorite features. I would rather have a Zelnaga Tower be a Zelnaga Tower and not a mini gateway. We've already seen supply depots on the bottom of ramps, and that confuses 9 out of 10 viewers already when it's a Zerg versus Protoss. So if we ever have a Zerg versus Zerg and why are there gateways on the maps? I don't understand. Yeah, we should try to, perhaps standardize it just a bit more, as Rantec will see this expansion now being set up by Optical.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that matters too much for Rantek. I mean, he's already gone down a path where he's expanded and he can't really pressure this, and he's already made the correct decision in expanding on his own. So he's going to be a little bit ahead, able to saturate his natural just a few seconds faster than Optical. But Optical will soon catch up and maybe even surpass him once he does get the double mules going from the two orbital commands. Being very safe, does have a bunker, does have a Marauders and Marines down below, and just starting stim as we see a robotics facility coming out for Rantek.
Yeah, I'm still curious as to why Optical has not started his factory yet. He will be starting a lot of Marine Marauder play, and we'll see whether Rantek tries to go down the Colossi line or down the Psystorm line. The Twilight Council, Psystorm, very powerful, obviously countered by Ghost. Colossi, very powerful as well. And with that double robotics facility, I would definitely... he canceled his robotics facility the moment that scanner sweep went down. So I'm not sure if that was on purpose or on accident.
Did he get it before the scanner sweep? So did Optical see it? Let's check his vision. I guess he saw the cancel.
Yeah, I think he saw the cancel, so perhaps Rantek didn't need that second robotics facility, as it is very difficult to run a lot of Colossi or two Colossi off of two base. You pretty much suffer from not having enough gas for Stalkers and Sentries, or he just didn't know that he already had one robotics facility up, and now he should probably be starting his robotics bay.
Yeah, we'll see whether he actually does go for a robotics bay or whether he switches up once again. And we see him getting out a second observer, something I really like. Most Protoss players get out the one observer, but then they're just so vulnerable if that observer goes down to a scan. So I like getting out the two quick observers, not rushing to the robotics bay, and trying to get out those Colossi really quickly, as we do see him going for a Twilight Council instead. So I wonder if he'll even use that robotics facility for any units besides these observers. Just wants to be safe, as the first observer making its way into Optical's base will see everything.
Yeah, it pretty much sees everything it needs to see. It sees quad racks, a starport with a reactor. He knows that with a starport with a reactor means that Vikings and medevacs will be coming in. And I'm thinking that looking at Rantek and how he's actually patrolling with this map, he has played a couple practice games. You can see that there's a probe patrolling on the right side, and the reason why it's patrolling along this location here is one, for drops, but two, this is one of the only few ways that you can actually get into your opponent's base without coming across any of these Zelnaga caverns or Zelnaga watchtowers. There is this the vents here that you can pass through and then hug along your base and then come around the side over here as a factory of Optical RH, now attempting to do some scouting as well.
Yeah, it's a slow scout over there, so we will be able to make it in. He'll at least be able to see the unit composition, as Rantek did scout that with that probe you mentioned, sending out a Stalker or two perhaps to try to take it down, but that Stalker going to have a little bit of trouble taking down the factory. I'm a bit concerned that Rantek, with the tech choices that he's going here, not really sure he's going to be able to handle the heavy Marine and Marauder pressure coming from Optical at this point. He only has one sentry, so he's not going to have a lot of Guardian shields and force fields, and he does not have a lot of upgrades. He's going for the Forge, he's getting ground armor level 1, which is the correct upgrade to get against this unit composition, but he's not going to be very far ahead in upgrades, and he's not going to have Colossi to take down and punish the Marines, as it looks like Optical pushing out here 117 to 98, and Rantek could be in trouble.
Yeah, Rantek definitely in trouble. You can see that he wants to go into High Templar, but he's not going to have that up in time at all. He can try to start that Psystorm research, but the Psystorm does take a bit of time, and you can also see that Rantek sitting on about 1200 gas, so he has a large amount of gas, and now you can see a lot of pylons warping in over here as the Marines and Marauders are now looking to push in and to perhaps just deal a lot of damage. There's only one Guardian shield up, as the Zealots are now trying to do a decent surround, but a decent stutter step by Optical RH, as those Marines are just constantly stimming and then pulling back, maximizing their damage, and this is almost just a straight up two-base timing push, and may get steamrolled off in this position here. The probes desperately trying to perhaps get a decent surround, preventing any of those Marines and Marauders from backing off, but a lot of workers have been killed. Stalkers are now going down, Zealots coming in from both sides, but I don't think, Rantek will be able to recover from this attack.
Yeah, just a little bit too late there on any sort of tech. He didn't have upgrades off the forges. If you're going to go for heavy gateway play, you have to have those upgrades. You have to have Guardian Shield and Force Fields to prevent the kiting. He did have charge on the Zealots, which was good, but you really need, something in addition to that to try to take on that unit mix from the Terran player. We just didn't see it. and Rantek's reign of terror is going to come to an end here as Relentless Heroes gets their first win of Wednesday Night StarCraft.
Yeah, so Relentless Heroes now finally on the board, and we are now moving to a critical game four. Will Relentless Heroes be able to even it up at 2 games apiece, or will we have a 3-1 lead for vV Gaming? Stay tuned for game 4.